Hello, good people of the world. Welcome to the Don't Stifle Me podcast. I am your host, Jacob Stiefel, a singer-songwriter, artist, musician from Fort Payne, Alabama, now living in Nashville, Tennessee. This episode is sponsored by yours truly. As I mentioned, I am a singer-songwriter. I have 3 CDs on iTunes and other platforms, along with merchandise and tour dates at jacobstiefel.com. That's JACOBSTIEFEL.com. At Jacob Stifle on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. Now, on with the show.
Pick it up again.
It ain't dying I'm talking about, it's living.
Today's guest, episode 1, numero uno, Chance Gray. Chance is on the music merchandise side of the world. He's worked with people you might have heard of, like Taylor Swift, Jason Isbell, Olivia Newton-John, Marty Stewart. That's just the ones I can remember off the top of my head. He's gone from plunging toilets in a downtown Nashville bar to working on Taylor Swift's 1989 tour, one of the biggest tours, if not the biggest in the world. And he had some super interesting stories and some inspiring stories that we talked about. But hey, don't take my word for it. Hear it for yourself right here. Don't Stifle Me, episode number 1. Here is my conversation with the one and only Chance Gray.
I am from a small town called Fife, Alabama, and I moved to Nashville in 2010 for music. I had 2 goals when I moved here. I just wanted to write songs and be paid for it, and I wanted to work in the industry. I moved up here with no job, no connections, no plans, not really anything. I had some savings, which I squandered fast once I got up here with no job.
It happens. I moved up here. I think I knew 2 people that both were from around Fort Payne, and those are like seeds, and then it just kind of grows from there. How many people did you know when you moved here? Like 2 or 3?
2 or 3, yeah.
Wow.
You and my cousin Brooke, and just a few more was it.
Yeah.
But I remember sitting in my bedroom one night or one afternoon, and I got a text, I think, from the bar owner down there, Big Shots.
Yeah, Big Shots.
Asked me if I wanted to come bar back. And I was kind of desperate for money, and I had no idea what the job entailed. But I said, yeah, let me change clothes, and I'll shoot down there. And I worked that night, and then I went back the next night, and no one ever really hired me. I just kept going, and no one told me to stop.
Well, it's one way to do it. I think I remember that day, because that's the...
You told them about me. They got my
Big
number
Shots is
from
the
you.
bar I used to play in. For those of you who don't know my story, I am a singer-songwriter from Fort Payne, Alabama. And when I first moved to Nashville, I played for like 2.5 years. I moved here in 2009 and played for about 2.5 years in the bars on Broadway and 2nd Avenue. And at one time I was playing Big Shots, this bar Chance was referring to, 4, 5, 6 nights a week. And I remember that day because I think the guy who was supposed to be bar backing didn't show up. And the owner was like, oh, well, he's not going to be here tonight. What am I going to do? I said, well, I just happen to know a guy who moved to town a couple months ago and does not have a job yet. So here's his number.
Yeah, and they got with me, and I went in, and it was really fun for a while. But I would say the bar atmosphere took a toll after a while, and I kind of got caught up in the scene that was going on and wasn't very productive. I wasn't meeting anyone. I wasn't writing. I wasn't doing anything I came here to do. And I kind of had a come to Jesus meeting with myself.
It's weird how easy that happens.
Yeah, it was very easy. Fun is always easy.
Yeah, right.
It's not always best, but it's easy. And I did that. Let's see, if I moved here in August of 2010, I think I started working the bar in October-ish. I did that up until May of 2012. And earlier that year, I just met a few people. And I had lunch with a guy one day, and he said, hey, have you ever thought about merchandise? And I was like, what's that? And he's like, well, you're the guy that would go on the road and sell the shirts and the hats and the koozies. Have you ever thought about doing that?
You mean to tell me, Chance, you didn't wake up when you were like 12 years old and think, man, one day I want to work in merchandise?
No, that was never a thought.
Precursor to all this, for you folks out there, Chance and I are cousins, and he's one of my best friends in the world. But he and I moved in together in Tuscaloosa into an apartment when we started college down there. Fast forward to here where, you had been working in the bar. For how long? How long did you work there before?
I think about a year.
That's enough.
Well, I said I'd had enough at, I don't know, probably 6 months into it or so. But it took a whole nother year of meeting people and doing some things. And I got this merchandise thing, and I said, no, I'd never crossed my mind to do this. But at the time, I would have done anything to get out of that bar and get on a tour, to do anything in music. And I don't know, maybe a few months went by, and this guy put in a good word for me. A couple people put in a good word for me with a company here. And in May of 2012, I got a phone call one day, and they said, hey, we need somebody to do merchandise for these two artists. Doesn't pay a lot, but your resume had come across our desk, and people put it in a good word. Are you interested? And I said, well, when does this thing start? And they said, you leave tomorrow afternoon. And I said, well, let me go quit my job and pack a bag. And that the next night, I was on a tour bus headed for Gulfport, Mississippi. My first day was a nightmare. I might have fibbed a little bit on my experience to get the job.
I was about to say, so April of 2012, you were plunging toilets, and May of 2012, you were on a tour bus.
Yeah.
Nice little jump there.
And I was probably making less on this tour bus than I was in the bar, but it wasn't about money for me. I was making an investment on an opportunity that I felt if I could just get my foot in the door, I could go further with it. And no one ever paid me to travel before. So I thought that was really cool. So I get on this bus, and my first day is a disaster. I have no idea really what I'm doing. At the end of the day, management comes up to me, like calls me to the side in front of everyone and asks me, do you think this is going to be for you? And I was like, yeah, just give me some time and I'll figure this thing out. And thankfully, they had patience with me. And I stayed on with this artist from May until I think her last show was October 31st of that year. And then I went into the management office and I was like, well, there's no more shows. What now? And they said, didn't you save up some money? And I was like, well, you guys didn't pay me enough to save anything. Right. I'd not planned for this. And they were like, well, we don't have any work here. Best of luck. So I went to scrambling around and just did not want to go back to the bar at all if I could help it.
I was going to say, I can't even remember if you did go back to the bar after that.
I didn't. I took fill-in gigs with different country artists, and maybe the coolest thing out of that time was I got put on the road with Olivia Newton-John for a week. I spent a week with her.
Get physical. Did she do that song?
Every night.
Oh, yeah. Did she do the Grease songs, too?
She did the Grease songs. John Travolta was not there, but some guy in her band put on a black leather greaser jacket and came together out. That was a lot of fun, and I was sitting around, November, December, January, February with nothing. I think I was out on the road doing van and trailer stuff with you at the time and booking your shows.
Yeah.
To try just to pay the rent, pretty much living off bologna sandwiches and SpaghettiOs. Mm-hmm. It was like we went to college and never left.
Right. Yeah.
Very much so.
We do think that from time to time.
And then one day I got a call to come in about a job, and I thought I was going to take that job. And then I was on my way home, and I got a call for another job. So there I'd been sitting for months with nothing. And within hours, I had 2 job offers. And, I kind of weighed my options. Ended up, taking the job with a artist and a really cool guy, Mr. Jared Neiman. I was on the road with him for 2 years.
So that was 2013 to 2014.
Yeah. March 8th, I want to say, was my first show in Fargo, North Dakota, and it was really cold, and snow was piled up as high as my head.
So I mean, like when you came here to be a songwriter, to write songs and to work in the music industry, and then you went into the bar and you were like, okay, I had enough of this. Here's a job that can get me out and start traveling. Like, what was going through your mind then?
Well, really, I just, I sat down and luckily with my touring schedule that I had, it was mostly weekend stuff where I was gone 3 or 4 days a week, and I would be home in Nashville 3 or 4 times a week. So that gave me plenty of time to write, to go out and network and meet people and do different things. And I just tried to hustle. I had it in my mind that I was going to do everything that I wanted to do. I just found a way to make it work and kept my living expenses and debts down as much as possible because I wasn't making a lot of money. And no, I wasn't thrilled to be out being the T-shirt guy. T-shirt guy doesn't get a whole lot of respect when you're dealing with lyrics and melodies and sound and lights and all this kind of stuff. But I felt like I did a good job and I worked hard and I fit in with people and
It's also interesting how you learn, like, you don't realize until you get into it how it really does take everybody to make the music and the artist happen. Like people.
No, it takes an army for sure.
Right? Yeah, like it takes everybody to make the world go round, and I think you realize that once you start peering in and you actually get in and get your hands dirty in the day to day and seeing the merchandise side of things. So I think that's was kind of a blessing. Definitely been a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, as time went on, I just learned. I thought it was extremely amazing that I was getting paid to be on a bus, to be around music constantly, to travel, to meet people, to meet other writers and other artists and other people, kind of taking the same path that I was on. And as time went on, I found myself getting invited to things that 2 years earlier they wouldn't have let me in with a ticket. So I thought that was cool, and
also to facilitate. I mean, the writing side of things. It wasn't like you just said, "Okay, I'm doing merchandise now. I'm going to stop writing and creating music."
No, I never stopped writing.
We were still writing together, and you've written most of the songs that have been on my CDs. Co-written. Us together, or
Yeah, writing is just. It's a part of me. It's in my nature. I think it is something that I will always do to a certain extent. When I moved here, I didn't know much about publishing deals and things like that, but I knew that's the route a lot of people was taking, and people told me I could get paid to go sit in a room and write with strangers or people I knew every day and crank out hits and whatnot. And I tried that for a while, and I met some really amazing people from it, but it just wasn't really my style, and it was something that I thought, okay, I love songwriting, but I don't want to do it every day because I feel like if you do something every day, it becomes a job. And I never want to wake up in the morning and go, oh, shit, I got to go write a song today.
Right.
I didn't want to get to that feeling. So I knew that if I could work and pay my bills and provide myself in other ways, I can always write, which is, usually I find things come to me early in the morning or really late at night. So I can always write lyrics at 11 a.m., 3 a.m., 6 a.m.
Yeah, you can always do it. I was listening to, I don't know if it was Isbell or Sturgill is one of those guys, one of their podcast interviews that they've done, and they were talking about songwriting, and I thought it was a really good point. They said, you can't just turn off being a songwriter. Doesn't matter if you're at a restaurant and you overhear a conversation at the table next to you, and you think, oh man, that was a good line. I'll have to save that one. Or I was at a friend's house this weekend in Athens, Georgia, this past weekend, and we were talking about something, and a buddy of mine that's also a songwriter said a line, and then we instantly looked at each other and said, oh, we got to remember that one. That's a song right there. So I think it just always happens whether you're selling merch or digging ditches in the yard or playing guitar. It doesn't matter. I think if you got it, you got it, you know?
Yeah, it's just writing in general has just always been a part of me. I noticed it from a very young age. I've always been I don't think obsessed is the word, but I've always really loved lyrics and words, the power that they have. I love things that rhyme.
Yeah.
I remember being like in the 3rd grade, and I was going to write a book, and I had all I remember about this was I had 2 characters, and they were aliens who had came to Earth, and their names were Mike and Kenny, and that's my dad and uncle's name. So that's how much creativeness I had, you know, at 7 or 8 years old. But, you know, as time went on, I remember being in like middle school and some friends coming to me and saying like, hey, I really like that girl. I don't know what to say to her. Like, will you write me a poem? And I would write poems for my friends and then put their name on it and stick it in a girl's locker or whatever.
I didn't remember that.
My great-grandfather passed away in 2005, and I got to write the eulogy for his funeral. And
Oh, that's cool.
I didn't really think much about it. For me, it was just my way of honoring him. And I remember sitting there at the funeral that day, and someone started reading what I had wrote down, and I looked around, and I just saw like the power of words. What I had written seemed to really resonate.
That's awesome that you knew at
and
that
affect
point.
people.
That you were already getting the inkling, and you knew at that point already like your passion and that how, you know, that you were good at something. And
Yeah, I was trying to
how it
write
touched
songs,
people, you know.
but I was scared to do it, and I thought there might be a book or something out there that would just tell me what to write and what form to put it in. And
If you find that book, let me know.
yeah, right. You know, I kept studying. I've always studied musical history as best that I could, and learned how my heroes were writing songs, and, you know, what comes first, the lyrics or the melody or the chord structure, or
Yeah, the chicken or the egg, right?
you know. And I learned, and I kind of had to train myself to always keep a notebook with me and to keep one by my bed. And I would wake up in the middle of the night and write stuff, or I would be in class not paying attention like I was supposed to in college, writing lyrics. And I was always carried away with it, and I tried to write. And it wasn't until when I was a girl that I guess when I was 17, I thought I was going to marry, broke up with me on my 18th birthday.
Now, in order, which girl was this that you thought you were going to marry? Was it the first, second, or the 11th? Are we up to now?
Well, this was the first I thought I had a real shot at, because she actually wanted to hang out with me.
Oh, okay.
She let me come to her house and stuff, and I was 18 or 17. She was 19, I think. She was a little bit older and kind of moved out and had her own place, and I thought that was really cool. But anyways, yeah, I talked to her on my 18th birthday, and she said, we need to talk. And
Yeah, that's never good.
even, you know, in a young man's mind of 17 years old, I sit there and thought, we need to talk. It's not going to end well for me. And, you know, and she gave me the whole, it's not you, it's me, I need space kind of thing. And I took it very hard, probably harder than I let a lot of people see. And I would just sit at home by myself and write stuff, and sometimes in song structure, or sometimes I would just freestyle write every thing that came through my head. And one day when I was 19, I was sitting in my bedroom, and I'd come up with this cool chord progression, or what I thought was cool, and I started thinking about her, and I wrote my first song that was very elegantly titled The Dirty Bitch Blues.
I've heard that song many times.
And you know, I wrote it and kind of kept it to myself because
I just got an idea.
Oh no!
We'll talk about this in a minute, but that should be maybe a hidden track on the new Chance Gray album coming out.
You know, it might. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll talk about that in a minute. Because I do want to tell you about that. But I remember I kept it in. You know, I feel like I grew up in a very small town in Alabama where most people were welders and grinders and factory workers and teachers and lawyers and doctors and all this. And I'm sitting here writing songs down. And I was very afraid to tell anybody that that's what I was doing in my spare time. I wasn't fixing up old cars.
Right.
I was writing lyrics in a spiral notebook. But I got the courage one night.
Expressing your feelings?
Yeah. I got courage one night. I assume Bush Light probably had something to do with it. But I remember playing the song for my friends, and they're like, "Did you write that?" And I was like, just very shy and in a nutshell, like, and very apologetically, yes, I did. And it turned out they liked it. And at every party I went to for several years of my life, I didn't go anywhere without my guitar. Like, I went to work with me. If I went to the beach, it was there. If I went to a campfire, bonfire party, it went everywhere I went.
At any point in time, if you ran into Chance Gray, he would have a guitar and a 12-pack of Bush Light in his vehicle.
Yeah. Yeah. One time I crashed out going around a curve, and what was left was some cans of Bush Light.
And it wasn't pieces of a guitar.
And my
pieces of Chance Gray.
Yeah, my little $100 Epiphone made it through, and I took that as some kind of sign. I don't know if that was the sign I should have got, but the sign was I should keep playing music because my guitar wasn't destroyed. But anyhow, that gave me courage to keep going, to keep writing. And I wrote a few other things, and at the time, everything I wrote was about 8 minutes long, I feel like. I just extremely wordy. I'm still extremely wordy. I have to edit everything I do. That was really bad when I got an internship at a newspaper one year, and I got to write a column.
This story is going like on a newspaper page, not in a college report.
Yeah, they told me to write 300 words, and I think I came up with 1,200. And the editor was like, "Oh no," but we got it whittled out, and.
So you've been doing the writing thing for quite a while now.
Yeah. And then, I moved to Tuscaloosa in August of 2005, August 12th, 2005. And about a week later, you moved in. And I remember, and I still have it in a notebook, where we sat down and wrote our first song in August of 2005.
Is that the No Name song?
The No Name song.
Yeah.
We were just trying to figure it out, I suppose.
We're still trying to figure it out, buddy.
I figure I'll always be trying to figure it out.
I was talking to my dad the other day, and we were talking about getting older, and I said, I feel like when you're 16, you say, man, when I was 12, I didn't know shit. And that's it. And then, when you're 20, you're like, man, when I was 16, I didn't know shit. I'm starting to figure it out now. And then when you're 24, 25, you're like, man, I didn't know shit when I was 20. And then it keeps going. And I told Dad, I said, I'm almost 30 now. I'm getting to the point to where I think as you get older, you just get more okay with not knowing shit. And he said, yeah, son, I'm over 50 and I don't know what the hell's going on. So I think we just kind of, make it up as you go, and
I'm just doing,
fit in.
I only know to do. And that's just, pretty much my approach to it.
So you got to Jared Neiman 2013 and 2014. What then?
I was with Jared up until April of 2014.
Now, what did Jared Neiman? We're getting to some people like the people you were with before Jared. Explain like what some of these people, some songs they sang. Some people might or might not know the lover.
Oh yeah, whatever, Jared had. I guess that was his first number one. Was Lover. I think that one might have been in like 2010. And when I came on with him in 2013, he was working on a new album. And he dropped it, and he come out with this song called Drink to That All Night. And I got to be a part of and see, like, hey, this thing is going to radio today. And then months later, I remember being in a club just outside of Kansas City when I found out that it went number one. And I had nothing to do with anything of the song, the writing, the music, any part. But I very much felt that I was a part of something, and it was awesome. And when he played it that night, like I really got chills, and I just had this amazing feeling. Then we got on opening with Keith Urban, and Brett Eldridge was the baby opener that year. So I did that.
Baby opener, is that some kind of like industry?
I don't. I may have just made that up. He was just the guy that went first. That's all I know.
I mean, it sounded like you knew what you were talking about. I'd never heard that term before, and I'm somewhat knowledgeable of this. So
I think I'm really good at making people think I know what I'm talking about.
Hey, that may be the secret to life, my friend.
Maybe it is. I hope so.
So anyway, so Brett Eldridge, you were working for Jared Neiman, and he got on a tour with Brett Eldridge and Keith Urban.
Yeah.
So it was Brett Eldridge, then Jared Neiman, then Keith Urban.
Yeah. And man, it was so much fun. It was at the time the biggest thing I'd done. I'd done van and trailer gigs with you. We'd done a lot of festivals and fairs and tractor pulls and rodeos and basically anywhere you could put up a stage.
Yeah.
I've done shows in the middle of cornfields, like no joke. And we were doing amphitheaters. Trucks.
So that was your first time being on that level.
Just hundreds of people just working crazy busy, really long hours to make all this stuff work. And
Isn't that crazy? I don't think people realize like how much work goes in. It's not just 5 or 6 musicians and a singer that just show up and unload their guitars and play music for you. I don't think people realize sometimes how much work, like it's 100 people or whatever, like building stuff, tearing stuff down, moving things around, running wires and lights and everything.
It's not the party that I thought it was going in. It's not like in the movies, for sure. It's long days, really long days sometimes. But anyways, I was out there on this tour, and I'd made a good friend in Brett Eldridge's merch guy at the time, and was talking to him. And this tour, lasted through the summer, I think into September, and I was already starting to think about the winter and remembering my first experience in 2012, where it got to the winter and I had no job and there were no more shows and everything kind of shuts down. And he said, "Hey man, I did Taylor Swift's last tour," and I was like, "Holy crap, that must be amazing!" And I just got him to tell me about it, and he said, "She's got a warehouse." And
so this 2013,
2014,
okay,
nearing the end of 2014, and
Gotcha.
He says, she gets a lot of online orders and things, and her company hires people to come in and package online orders. It's not a greatest thing in the world, but it'll help get you through the winter. And
T Swift, yeah, jump on that.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there. My initial thought was, great. If you can help get me in here, I would love the money and I would love the work because I need it. But the second thought I had was, now I bet if I get in there and do a good job or whatever, I'd heard that she was going to be doing a tour in 2015, and I thought that I could find my way onto this tour. Because I wanted to see what it was like. And I got in there, and I worked through the winter of 2014. February of 2015 rolls around, and I sent an email back to the people I'd worked for and told them, if they needed anyone for a tour, I would like to go. And
It just so happened to be that Taylor Swift was going to be going on tour that year. How about that?
Yeah, and they said, we're about to start hiring if you're interested. And I think I was pretty much the first one to get hired for that tour. And I worked through...
Now, which one was that? Was the 1989 Taylor Swift?
That was the 1989 tour. I had no idea what to expect, but I was really excited. And it was also something, for the first time, I called home to my mother or my friends and said I was working for someone, and they didn't say, "Who is that?"
Yeah.
But because if people don't know the name, they just think you're doing nothing.
Yeah, it's like, you were with Jared Neiman, and once you said, Jared Neiman, lover, I can drink to that, they'd be like, "Oh, yeah, I know, yeah." And the same thing with Heidi Newfield that you were with before. You'd say, "Oh, from Trick Pony, she had this and that." Like, "Oh, yeah, okay."
Yeah.
But yeah, this was the first time where you'd say, "Oh, I'm going on the tour with Taylor Swift."
Yeah.
Oh.
So at this time, I think my parents and my family decided that I hadn't moved up here just to party and waste my life away, that I'd actually been working and doing things.
Yeah, I think they were on the fence for a little while on that one.
They were certainly on the fence.
Chance used to get random text messages with job offers hey, they're hiring at so-and-so newspaper.
One time in Christmas, my 80-year-old grandmother asked me in front of everyone if I was on food stamps and that I would probably qualify. And man, that was disheartening and
Thanks, Granny.
Yeah, very embarrassing at Christmas. And I was like, I work hard and I make money. I think I'll do without. Thank you.
Yeah.
But anyways, getting on this tour was a big thing. There were so many parts of it. I knew the experience would be invaluable, and if I could get out there and do a good job, and be able to put her name on my resume, I felt like I could come back to town after that tour and do anything I wanted. Like, it just gave me a little confidence and a little power in myself to think that 3 or 4 years earlier I was, plunging toilets and stocking beer and getting yelled at by bartenders all night, doing van and trailer stuff. And here I was 4 years later on literally the biggest tour in the world.
In the world, yeah. And
I was just a small spoke in the wheel, but I was very proud to be there, and very thankful for the experience. So, I took that job, and I remember telling Jared I was leaving was one of the hardest things. I'd spent 2 years with him, and the crew guys and the band guys, and when you spend that long with someone, you can't help but get attached, or I do. So leaving him was hard, but I felt like he would understand, and I give a month's notice. I felt like that was very respectable, and I helped find the guy that would replace me, and I trained him, and I left in a good way so that there wouldn't be any hard feelings or burned bridges there.
Work hard, be nice.
April the 20th, 2015, I started work for Taylor. We were doing pre-work stuff for a month, and I'm pretty sure the tour started in Shreveport, Louisiana on May the 20th of 2015. And I was with Taylor from May until October 31st was our last show in Tampa, Florida. And I just remember...
So what were your responsibilities like with Taylor? What were you doing? Title, position, whatever, like what did you do?
Well, I was still doing merchandise, but in this world it was so big, it wasn't just me doing things. I was on a crew. I had a boss and guys that I worked with every day. We had semi-trucks full of stuff. I'd never seen so much merchandise in my life. I didn't know that many T-shirts could be sold. But I spent a lot of time in semi-trucks with a pallet jack, moving pallets of boxes of T-shirts stacked 7 or 8 feet high, doing all these arenas and stadiums. I mean, I worked anywhere from, I think, 12 to 18, 19 hours most days, and I would log in anywhere from 14 to 18 miles on foot, walking. Whew. The longest day I remember would have been... in San Francisco, or working the 49ers stadium, Levi Stadium there. I remember, I think the show was like on a Friday or Saturday, but we went in to work at like 10 a.m. on Friday morning and worked all through the night.
Saturday morning?
Well, this is
whatever.
I don't remember what day the show.
The day of the show.
Yeah. Day of the show. We're at work at 10 a.m. And I remember getting off work and going back to the bus the next morning at 7 or 8 a.m. It was just daylight, a whole new day, and I couldn't wait to just go to sleep.
Right.
We were so tired. But, it was a great experience. For me, I just wanted to go to the top to see what it was like. That way I could come back down and take what I had learned
then you had
move forward.
You had seen from A to Z. You had seen the van and trailer, and even back to being a barback, up to the biggest tour in the world. That's a big span that you saw, increments of in between, and then it's like, what's next? Because there was that tour, and then what'd you do? Because that tour doesn't last forever, just like everything else in this business.
Yeah. I was already. Thinking, I was only contracted to work for the length of the tour, which I knew was going to end October 31st, and I'd be flying back here to Nashville on November 1st. So I started thinking about what I was going to do, and I was honestly, I was scared to death. I wasn't really clear of what I wanted to do, but I kind of wanted to to get out of country music a little bit, or at least mainstream country music. Honestly, I felt like the stuff they've been putting on the radio the last few years is complete shit. And I wanted nothing to do with it, or whatever. So I remember it being August of 2015, a few months left of the tour. I'm thinking ahead. I'm trying to figure things out. And I just kind of sat down and thought about who my favorite artists were. And at the time, I'd been listening to a lot of, Chris Stapleton and Sturgill Simpson and this other dude from Alabama named Jason Isbell.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, he writes songs and stuff.
Yeah.
No, I was sitting there thinking, who do I want to work for? I think with my experience and my resume, I can work for anybody. And I wanted to be happy. Like working in music to me has not ever really been about the money. It has been about being able to make enough to survive and provide a good living for myself, but also being happy. I never wanted to spend my whole life being miserable. So my next move, I wanted it to be a good move. And I love, the three artists I just named. I loved all of them, but Jason is my favorite. I really admire his songwriting from the stuff he was doing with the Drive-By Trucker.
Jason, if you're listening, he's not just saying that. This was before you were paying him.
So, for a man who's always been just crazy about lyrics and stuff like that, that guy's the top of the line. So I was out in San Jose, California in August of 2015, and had an off day, and I had a few drinks and hung out by the pool, and I got a little courage, and I had all this on my mind. And sometimes, like, when I get things on my mind, it just literally will not leave me alone until I do something about it. So I went into my hotel room and I logged on to the Wi-Fi, and I Googled Jason Isbell management, and I found his manager's email on there, and I thought, well, here it goes. And I constructed an email to her, just telling her, who I was and what I was doing and what I was interested in doing, and being a part of Jason's crew. And I just closed my eyes and hit send. And I thought I would never hear from that lady ever in my life. And 2 days later, I got an email back that said, "I'm sorry, I don't need anybody right now, but check back." And that's something that, if you work in the music industry, I've heard that a lot. Yeah, check back with us later.
Yeah.
Go do some stuff, come back later. And honestly, I felt defeated or whatever. But I went back to work, with Taylor the next day, and worked and finished up the tour. And October 31st, Tampa, Florida was the last show. November 1st, I was on a plane ride back here, and it was very, almost kind of sad and depressing that it was over. And I was in Tampa that morning, where it was sunshine and warm and beautiful, and I flew to Nashville, and it was dark and cold and rainy. And I was sitting there with no plans, no job, a little bit of savings that I'd saved up from the tour. And I got back, and I waited a day or two, and I emailed Jason's manager back and asked her again if she needed someone. And she said, "Could you meet in my office at 4:00 today?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I will be there." And I went into her office, and I was scared to death, but I was also confident. At the time, I knew that I could be a part of what he was doing, and I would do a good job, and I could bring something to the table, and I was confident in that.
You weren't quite so green as you were once upon a time. You weren't.
No, my nickname wasn't Green Jeans anymore. Thank you, Sonny Sweeney. But anyways, I sit there, and I said, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I said, there's only 3 artists in the world in any genre of music that I want to work for, and Jason is my first pick. And just kind of left the meeting, and I felt good about it. And a few weeks later, I had the job. And just another...
It's cool because, like, looking on I'm sure people that don't, people that aren't in the world and in the industry and don't know how things work, I'm sure a lot of people will say, Chance, you're so lucky you get to do this. Just like that's such a lucky life, and that's true to a certain degree. But it's a combination of lucky and meeting the right people by happenstance sometimes. But it's also like you really worked and researched and.
No, I worked long and hard.
Yeah, figured out. It's not. And once again, it's not your original goal of being a number one hit songwriter, but you got in it and you figured out along the way that what you're good at and what you could do and your path, and that's kind of
the whole merchandise thing, but kind of became a skill that I'd learned just as being an electrician or welding. It was something I learned, I got good at. I developed kind of a love for it, and I saw the importance of it. I'd been in a van and trailer where selling 2 shirts meant having enough gas money to get to the next city, and I'd been in a position to see that this money probably goes to fuel private jets and pay for mansions and things like that. Like it's important, and I know the impact that it has, especially these days with the whole streaming and albums not doing so well, and record labels and the major ones taking cuts of everything from these artists and creatives. I knew it was something that I could do.
So now you're with Jason Isbell.
I'm currently with Jason Isbell.
All last year.
All of 2015. It is the best job I've ever had in my whole life. I love it. I love the people that I work with, and I'm very thankful for those people and the opportunity. And back to what you were saying of luck, I believe that luck and timing is something that everyone needs, but they are not to be relied upon. And my whole life, I've always worked to position myself where luck might find me a little easier than the next guy who might be sitting on his couch doing nothing. And I certainly believe that, luck comes into play once you do the work and do stuff. Never in my life has anyone ever just knocked. No beautiful girl has ever knocked on my door and said, "Hey, I heard there was a guy living here looking for a date." No one knocked on my door ever and said, "Hey, this girl named Taylor is going on tour. It's pretty big. Would you like to go?" That didn't happen. I very much worked my way into it.
So you're with Jason in merchandise. Are you still doing? It's a little different than with Taylor, right? Though, like, what's the difference in there? Because I know Taylor Swift's top of the world pop rock. Jason Isbell is top of the world Americana, but it's different. So how does it differ with being out on the road with him from her? Like what you do.
To me, it's a lot the same. The venues are smaller. We do a lot of theaters. And man, I love this theater. I get to go into these old theaters that were built in 1910, 1930. They all have stories. They all have great architecture. We're doing these things, some amphitheaters. We did Red Rocks last year. My first time ever. That's definitely a bucket list venue. And sitting there looking up from side stage, 8,500 people thereabout, screaming and going crazy and singing the songs and knowing the lyrics. It's very powerful. It's very moving. And I don't know. I guess when I was growing up, I very much wanted to be in a band. I always wanted to be in a band. I wanted to be in a gang.
Yeah.
And when I'm out on the road with the Isbell crew, I very much feel like I'm in a gang and I'm with friends, and they might give me a hard time or whatever, but I feel like if someone on the outside tried to mess with me, someone would step in. And, that's just the way it works.
Jimbo Hart, step up and take up for you.
Yeah, I know Jimbo would. He's a great dude. He's actually so nice that he's volunteered to play on my new album.
Yeah, speaking of Jimbo, he and Chad, we all four went in the studio the other day and worked on, was it The Long Crossing?
The Long Crossing is what I've settled on for my first album. It will probably come out I'm 31 now, but I assume by the time it comes out, I'll be 32. It's just something I've wanted to do my whole life, but I wouldn't out of fear. I kept waiting to write the perfect lyric or write the perfect song or get discovered or whatever. I thought the stars would align, but the older I get, I realize there's never a perfect time to do anything. And, I was sitting around one day, just kind of jotting down songs I had written. And I got to looking at these titles, and I was like, every one of these tell a story to me, and they mean something to me. And I was like, there's enough here for a whole album. And I get to thinking of, now that I'm sustained in providing for myself and working in the industry, and I have honestly, I have a dream job. I'm doing all the things that I love. I'm not trying to be to get a record deal or to be discovered anymore. So when I looked at these songs,
you're not necessarily scratching and clawing and trying to keep your head above water.
Yeah,
you're kind of at a point to where now you can do your job, which you love, but also do these other things you love and spend some time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I get to do everything that I love, and I'm not worried about length of songs. I'm not worried about, is it country, is it rock, is it rap, is it Americana, whatever. It just is what it is. To me, songs are very much living and breathing entities, and they just are what they are. And I don't want to be put in a cage. I don't want to be labeled. It just is what it is, and it means something to me. And I hope the whole world gets a copy of this. But if 3 people got a copy, and my mother was one of those, I assume then that's success to me, and it means a lot. And I guess I can give you a little backstory on the album, how it came to be.
Yeah. Tell the folks. I'm sure they all want to know.
In June, it's kind of embarrassing almost, but not really. It's just life. It's real. It's honest. But in June of 2013, I found myself in a foreign place called Traverse City, Michigan. I was up there for a show, and I met this girl who I still to this day can see the way she smiled at me the first time, and I just lost it. And I spent the next probably 18 months just really in love with this girl, talking long distance. I mean, we talked every day, phone calls, Skype, text. I flew to visit her a couple times. She was in Nashville once, and I thought it would work out, and eventually I would wrangle her down here to Music City, and we could build a house and get a puppy and have some kids.
The American dream, right?
Yeah. I had all that envisioned. I certainly would have married her. I'm 31 years old, and she's the only girl that I've ever, just said I love you to, and wholeheartedly meant it.
Yeah, we've been there.
So
I'm sure 98% of the people listening have been there. So
yeah, I think a lot of people will definitely relate to this album. It's not the happiest album. Shake your ass music, have a good time or whatever. But it's very honest, and it's very, it's very scary for me to put it out because it is so real. Like I'm basically just opening up.
It's the best shit.
My entire life, for anyone who wants to listen to it. But anyways, all the songs on there, they're not necessarily about her or about the breakup or whatnot. But the whole album kind of is a concept and kind of tells a story. It starts out very happy and upbeat of a man in love, and just goes through the trials and tribulations of a relationship down to the crash and burn of the ending. And it's going to take me a little bit to record it because of my touring schedule and the other things that I'm currently working on.
Well, to me, the coolest thing about it is that it's as real as it gets. You're not trying to do anything with this other than release some real art that people will undoubtedly identify with. And that, like the other day, somebody was asking me why it is I do what I do as far as being a singer-songwriter and artist and traveling musician. And it's really not ever been, clearly up till this point, it's not been for the money.
Right.
But it's not like for notoriety or money or meeting people or whatever. It's, to me, I know what music and art has done for me in my life. Like in all aspects of my life since I can remember, music and songs have played a part, have played a role, and I've identified along the way with certain songs and certain musics and certain artists. And to think that I have the ability and the privilege to do that for other people is why I continue to do what I do. And that's what I see in this CD that you're working on.
Yes.
I mean, it's stuff that you felt that you know, and I know, and everybody else out here surely knows that we've all been there. We've all loved somebody who didn't love us back.
Yeah. It's part of it. It's sad, but it's true and it's real, and I think it's something that everybody can certainly relate to. And none of these songs were written by sitting around in a room with strangers throwing shit up against the wall to see what was sticking, or nothing was written in the mindset of, oh, I bet this would be a catchy melody that could be on country radio. None of that. I'm not shooting for any of that. I don't want to. I'm very stubborn. I think as a creative person, I don't want ever have anyone tell me what I can and can't write about and sing about, and that will probably cost me, getting a CMA award or whatever. But that's okay with me, and honestly, on the way kind of things are right now, if I had to sit around and write songs about bonfires and trucks and Fireball and tan lines and tailgates every day, I'd rather drive a truck. Which is where the Grand Ole Opry, that's what they told Elvis he should do.
Yeah, right? Yeah. You should maybe think, Elvis Presley, you should maybe think about driving a truck.
Yeah, that was a good call. Why do you want to jump in bed with people that would tell Elvis to go drive a truck anyway?
So what's next? What's now? What's new? What's like that kind of, that's catching everybody up and telling the story of Chance Gray. But what's in the future? You got some stuff cooking. We got the CD that we just talked about. We got that going on. What else are you juggling around?
What's today? Tuesday?
We are recording this on Tuesday, January 31st of 2017. Yeah.
Yeah. So Thursday morning, I leave to go out on tour with a man that if you don't know, you should look up, or if you're too lazy to, that's okay, because he'll just eventually come to you. And his name is Brent Cobb.
I will include Brent Cobb's links in the show notes to this page.
Brent is I think an amazing guy, a good friend of ours. Actually, I don't know. I guess we met him
for years.
I remember. I don't know. Maybe met him in like 2012 or something. But I remember when I heard his songs, I wanted to burn every notebook I'd ever scribbled lyrics in because I thought it was that good.
I was explaining to somebody the other day. Brent Cobb he's a songwriter. He's the real deal. He doesn't just rhyme words. He shapes them in a way that makes us all go, oh.
I think
Why did I think of that?
I think if he's singing about a riverbank, it's because he actually sat there and he felt it and he lived it, and he's able to poetically put those words into music in just a way that I feel like a lot of people can't do. Something very special about him, and he's a good dude. That's the other part to me, working in music. I try to always steer myself towards not only good music but good people. And now I'm sitting here. This will be my 6th year on tour, and I look back at the journey of when you and I were playing in college. I just wanted to make $50, get a free bar tab, and have an easier way to talk to girls. And now this is my life. I eat, breathe, and sleep.
It's crazy.
Music, everything I do, whether it's touring or writing or whatever, is completely revolved around music, and that's how I want my life to go.
It's like, what if you'd have gone back to us 10 years ago today, and what was this? That would have been 07. You would have just graduated.
2007.
Yeah,
I graduated college December of 07.
Okay. So we'd be at the Royal Court right now Yeah.
Yeah,
We were living at the Royal Court Apartments in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We would have thought you were crazy if you came back and said we'd be sitting here 10 years later talking on a podcast about our careers in the music business and who we know. You know.
Rent was $383 for a 2-bedroom apartment. I paid $181.50 and you paid $181.50.
So it was $363. Yeah.
$360. Yeah. If you can find an apartment these days for $363,
2-bedroom apartment, $363.
let me know. Don't invite me over because it's got to be a dump. I know.
Well, I believe that was a quality podcast there. We talked about a lot of stuff.
I mean,
for those of you still listening, thank you very much. I appreciate it. So is it chancegray.com?
It will be.
It will be working on that. Chancegray.com.
Yeah.
Look out for the Long Crossing coming in the next, year ish.
You should go to my website because I had to pay $700 to get it from some company out in Denver or something that wouldn't give me a deal. But anyways, yeah.
And
that's it.
Twitter and Instagram at @chancegray_. Yes,
sir, that is correct. And if you find me on Facebook, it's just Chance Gray, Gray. I'm on all those places. Instagram is my favorite.
Cool, man.
I'm not much of a Snapchat guy.
Well,
I'm not hip.
So be it. Well, roll tide.
Roll tide.
Yeah, there it was, episode 1. Thank you so much once again for listening and sticking around. My name is Jacob Stiefel. This is the Don't Stifle Me podcast. Thanks to Chance Gray for hanging out with me and talking with me about life, past, present, and future. I would like to direct you to don'tstifleme.com. The Twitter and Instagram will be at DSM Podcast. The Facebook page is Don't Stifle Me. Check us out at all those social media sites. The show notes, links to Chance's stuff, my stuff, anything we mentioned, Brent Cobb, our buddies, anything along the lines that you would like to know more about. We'll throw all that information into the show notes that will be up at don'tstifleme.com/001, because this is the first episode ever. Our sponsors for these first few episodes, the sponsor is going to be me, which is jacobstiefel.com, at jacobstiefel on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Jacob Stiefel Music on Facebook. And I would love it if you go check the music out and listen to it, see what you think. Shoot me a tweet or a Snapchat or what have you. Let me know what you think about the songs and the music. And please subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, share with your friends. It's going to be a really cool thing. I'm super excited. It's one of the things I've been the most excited about in a long time because I'm a big believer in these podcasts. I think they help. I've learned a lot and grown a lot as a person from good, intelligent conversations between people, and I really want to supply that for other people. So please, if you enjoy this, let us know, review it, share it with people, shoot me an email or a Facebook message or something. Anyway, we will see you. I will talk to you again for episode 2, 3, 4, and we'll at least do 5 or 6 of these bad boys and get them to you. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Go forth and have a beautiful day.